Hi guys, welcome back to the Watch Bench, and in this video I'm going to be giving you some valuable advice on how to buy a watch for a man. But before we do that, come and have a look at this thing here. This is so gorgeous. So we're going to get into the business of how to buy a watch for a man in a moment, but before we do that I just wanted to show you this, which is, I mean, look at that. That is so pretty, right? It is a 1907 Waltham movement from a trench watch with a solid gold case. The case is somewhere here. And, you know, most of my videos are about the business of restoring beautiful old watches like this. Why am I telling you this? Well, two reasons really. In the video that you're about to see, I am going to give you the safe path for buying a watch for a man. I'm also going to talk a little bit about what to do if your man happens to be a bit of a watch geek. So, and that's when I'm going to mention movements like this. So yeah, I'll just put a little bit of power on this watch and just watch it go, and then we will get into the video. And there she is going, and isn't that lovely? So the second reason that I'm showing this watch now is, you know, I need to lay out my credentials on why you should listen to me. This is an important video. If you're buying a watch for a man, you're going to be spending some of your hard-earned cash. So why should you listen to a guy like me? Yeah, why should you listen to a guy like me? Well, I am a watchmaker and I'm a bloke, so seems reasonable that, you know, I'm as in the strongest position as anybody to give you advice on this subject. Now, if you like my videos, then please subscribe, and, you know, if you watch this video to the end and you like it, then or even halfway through, then give it a thumbs up, and that would be good. Appreciate that. So also, there's a bonus at the end of this video. In this video, I'm going to tell you pretty much the safe path to buying a watch for a man on any budget, okay? Regardless of whether you've got less than £100 to spend or you've got over £10,000 to spend on a watch. Now, on one particular route down this path, the route that most people I think will take, and that's why I recommend it, or one of the reasons I recommend it, is there's a nice little follow-up that you can do on another date to follow up on the present that you've given, and I will talk about that at the end of the video. So let's get on. The topic is how to buy a watch for a man on any budget and not mess it up. And the information that you are really after now. This is how to buy a watch for a man on any budget. Okay, let's have a look. And the first thing that I should say is everything that I'm going to cover in a moment, all the information is also on my blog, and you can see the URL to my blog at the top there, here. But you could also just do a search on Richard Perrett Watchmaker and you will find your way quite quickly to my website. So yeah, I commend that to you. It's all the information is in the blog. So now, unsurprisingly, you're not going to get a success with this operation unless you know something about the man that you are buying the watch for. And at this point, I'd like to make a little bit of an apology. I'm always having to deal with copyright issues when I make stuff for YouTube. So I'm afraid I don't have a male model as the man in this instance, other than myself. And that's me actually in Rome there, somewhere near the Spanish Steps, because you can see Audrey Hepburn in the background. Actually going to make a video on Audrey Hepburn and the watch that she used to wear sometime in the very near future. There we are. I can rant on about Audrey Hepburn forever. We love Audrey Hepburn. Anyway, focus. Let's focus. We're talking about buying a man a watch. Now, you're going to need to know some stuff about the man, and these are 4 questions that you don't absolutely have to have answers to, but it's useful to know this stuff. So firstly, is the guy a watch geek? This guy here is a watch geek. Okay, it's important to know. I'll tell you why a little bit later. Does he require a very, very accurate watch? And by that, I mean accurate to within sort of less than a second a day. Okay, and what's his wrist size? You don't need to know it exactly, but you know, has he got a small wrist? Has he got a medium-sized wrist, or is he like really massive wrist? Okay, and lastly, how long is he going to be wearing this watch in bright sunshine? You might be wondering why that's a question, and I will reveal the answer to that downstream. So let's move on. The key criteria about this watch that you're going to buy is how versatile it is. Versatility is everything, and it is the key criteria we're going to use to select the watch that you should buy. So let's have a look. Just to set the context for this, before we get in to the detail of versatility, I just want to deal very quickly with the 2 main types of technology that is out there for you to choose from. And firstly, you will hear this term quartz watch, and then mechanical watch. So let's take a look at both of these. Firstly, the quartz watch. And here we have a quartz movement. Let me just bring that up to the light there and see if I can make that focus on there. Okay, as you can see, it's actually not got a battery in it. Normally the battery would sit here, okay? But the fact that it's got a battery leads us to the conclusion, you know, as they say, no shit Sherlock, the deduction that this is a bunch of electronics. And essentially inside this watch, you've got an electrical oscillator which is regulated by a quartz crystal. And the properties of that crystal and its interaction with the electrical oscillator essentially provides a timepiece with extraordinarily good accuracy. So this movement like this is an expensive quartz movement. It actually belongs to a Hugo Boss chronograph, which is not completely bad looking actually. This is going to cost like £60, this quartz movements. A lot of them don't have any jewels in them at all, and these quartz movements are often coming off at sort of £11 and £13 a pop. But they are extraordinarily accurate. Now, a lot of watchmakers can't get fired up about quartz watches because at the end of the day, it's just a bunch of electronics. It kind of doesn't have any soul. If you're gifting somebody this watch, then you are giving a little heap of electronics, which is a profoundly good timekeeper, but requires its battery to be changed, between 2 and 4. Every 2 to 4 years. So that's it. Not my cup of tea, but there we are. So let's turn our attention then to the mechanical movement. And here is one, if I can get it out of the bright light there and just bring it up so you can see it. Okay, so can we focus on that? I don't know, just moving the thing there. As you can see, this is a whole lot more beautiful. Essentially, the design of this watch hasn't changed in hundreds and hundreds of years. You have a spring, you have a powertrain, and then the little thing that you can see flying around there is called the balance, and that is part of the escapement. that does the regulation of the oscillation of the balance, and that gives us the timekeeping of the watch. Now, okay, so I just had to change the light there a bit, and so that you weren't getting too much reflection. So, you know, this watch here, this mechanical watch, is a whole lot less accurate than this Quartz watch. But the interesting thing, of course, is that the Quartz watches tend to be a lot cheaper than the mechanical watch. This actually is a mechanical automatic watch because it's got this rotor arm here that moves, and every time you move your wrist, this oscillating weight or rotor arm moves around, and it actually winds the watch up. So it's probably, in terms of green watch, this is really clean power because it's taking the power out of the movement of your body, okay, and storing that kinetic energy as potential energy within the spring. So very, very quickly then, we've got Quartz watches, very accurate but cheap, mechanical, and this is an automatic mechanical watch, a whole lot more beautiful and a whole lot more expensive. So that's the difference there. Let's just take these away now and get back in, refocusing on this issue of versatility. Now, bearing in mind, any watch you buy is going to be either quartz or mechanical. We can then overlay onto this classification scheme. What do I mean by this? Well, in terms of versatility, we need to look at our ability, or the man who is receiving this watch's ability, to wear the watch in a number of different scenarios. So if he's going out formally, he might be wearing a suit. Will the watch work with a suit? That's one of the things we want to make sure that the watch we are buying him does. Will he also be able to wear the same watch when he's playing sports, and the very same watch when he is just out casually, you know, in jeans and a t-shirt? So essentially we've got suit, playing sports, sort of leather jacket, jeans and a t-shirt here. And what we're seeking, of course, is a watch that is in this area here. Okay, a watch that a guy can wear in any one of these scenarios. And just to put a bit of color to that, here we go. Here's me in a suit. Can I wear this watch in this suit? Okay, so apparently I look like a drug dealer in that. I thought it was a bit harsh. I don't have many pictures of me recently doing sport. This one was taken last Tuesday, as you can see. It's me running actually a long time ago, way before I had the money for a watch. So I'm not even wearing a watch in this one here. But it's just to illustrate, right? And here is me and the very beautiful Bella dog, just out casually getting a cup of coffee. And what we are seeking, everybody, is a watch that you can wear in a suit, that you could wear on the running track, or you could wear with your very pretty dog just going to get a nice cup of coffee down at the coffee shop. So what is that watch? Da-da-da! That watch, ladies and gentlemen. Now I have to stop at this point. There are a number of designs that will fulfill this criteria. But above and beyond all of those designs, there is one that stands out head and shoulders above all the other designs. And that design is, ladies and gentlemen, the Submariner. I give you the Submariner watch, and particularly the Submariner with a date. Complication. Okay, so here it is. Very, very beautiful watch. This is a classic design. Let me just see if I can get it in the light here. There we go. Okay, this is masculine This is rugged. This keeps out the water, and it can be purchased on any budget. And I am going to show you now precisely what you need to do to purchase this design of watch by a good manufacturer in any budget. And let's just see if I can get that to focus. We're going to take a closer look at that a bit later. Okay. Now, so you're going to buy to succeed. No, you don't have to, but this is the advice I'm giving. I'm saying that you should go and get this guy a submariner like this. But the question then is, which submariner? Now, the original submariner was created in the 50s by Rolex. And of course, you could go and get one of those, but they're very, very expensive. And that is one of the watches that I'm going to cover in a moment. But let's go on then and have a look at the types of submariner we've got. Now, just remember, all of the detail of this is also in my blog. So, going through them. The one that I just showed you, unsurprisingly for the impoverished watchmaker here, is the Invicta Pro Diver. So the Invicta Pro Diver is the least expensive of the submariners, and as I say, that is going to set you back the cost of dinner for two in a, you know, not a super expensive restaurant, but your average restaurant out and about. So what is the next one? The next watch up is the Steinhardt Ocean One. Now, this watch is the first watch to have a Swiss automatic movement in it. Now, this watch is going to cost you... So which submariner should you choose? Well, here are the range of submariners that I am going to take you through, from the one that will cost you the least money to the one that will cost you the most. And dealing with the first here is the Invicta Pro Diver, and you can acquire this watch in Quartz for the same price as you would go out for a meal for two in the evening, and the automatic version would be the same amount of money, but with maybe a good bottle of wine thrown on top. So it's not a huge amount of money. With that watch, you get the Seiko NH35 movement. I have done two videos on this watch. I'm a big fan of this watch, and all the detail is in my blog. But for the amount of watch that you get for the money, this is a very, very serious contender. Now, this one over here is the most expensive. This is the Rolex, and I know for a fact that a lot of people that own Rolexes also have one of these in their drawer that they like to put on from time to time as well. This is a very, very nice watch. So moving up, the next, if your budget is a bit higher, you could go to a Swiss ETA movement, an automatic movement in a German-made case by the company Steinhardt, and the model that you'll be looking for is the Ocean One. And I apologize, my dogs are barking about something in the background, but we are going to manfully push on despite that. Company, so it's a German-made case with a Swiss automatic ETA movement inside it. A very, very nice watch indeed, and that will set you back about the same sort of money as it would cost for two of you to go away to a nice hotel for the weekend. Now, moving up then, the next one is we get our first Swiss brand, and this is a brand called Certina. It's been in existence since 1888, and so it is not only a Swiss movement but a full Swiss made case and the movement itself has an impressive power reserve of 80 hours. So if you don't wind a watch, it will still keep on going for 80 hours, which is very, very good. These two watches are more in the order of 40 hours. And that watch is going to cost you, well, I'll actually give you a figure for this one. This will cost about £700 or £800, or the equivalent in dollars. So I guess, you know, that's kind of a week's holiday somewhere for two people. So here we've got a budget, Invicta, a budget of less than £100. Here we've got a budget of less than £500. Here we've got a budget of less than £1,000 with the Certina. Then we move up to Tudor. Now Tudor is a company that was spawned from Rolex. Okay, generally Rolex make the case and they put in a ETA Swiss movement inside it. In this instance, however, this is the Tudor Black Bay Ray submariner, and this is going to cost, you know, £2,000 or £3,000, something of that order, and it has its own in-house movement. So a very, very impressive watch. It's also a chronometer. So it's the first watch that is regulated to within a few seconds a day. And of course, although it's not carrying the Rolex logo, there is an association with Rolex there. And that makes it in itself quite attractive. And then moving right to the top of the pile, we have the original and, you know, maybe arguably the best, the Submariner date by Rolex. Now, the version you can see here is actually stainless steel with 18 karat gold, but you can get just a stainless steel version, you know, one that would look similar to the Invicta here, just made out of stainless steel with the Rolex. So I set out to tell you how to buy a watch for a man on any budget, and I think I've done that. You know, this is a way where you can be sure that you have taken the safest path to your goal of getting a watch that this guy is going to find useful and going to like. Okay, now it might not work every time. You know, taste is a funny thing. This exercise is not without risk, but what I'm trying to do is steer you down a particular course, because I know the huge amount of choice that's out there. So this is a way, a path that you can either choose to go down or not, as the case may be. So on my blog, there is a full breakdown of all the different movements inside these watches and a kind of comparison of what you get for your money. But just to revise what I've just said, we have the Invicta Pro Diver. It's less than £100. We have the Steinhardt Ocean One with the Swiss ETA movement. That is less than £500. We have the first Swiss brand, the Certina 1888. It's got an 80-hour power reserve, and you can get it for about £700 to £800. Then we step up to the first watch, which is being touched by the Rolex brand, and that is Tudor. And that is the Tudor Black Bay Ray. It's going to cost you in the order of £2,700. It has an in-house Tudor movement and is a very lovely watch. And if you have the cash, the original and arguably the best, there is the Rolex Submariner date, and that is going to cost you in stainless steel £7,000 to £8,000, and then you can just go crazy with precious metal and diamonds and all sorts of stuff if you want to, and you have more money to spend. So that then determines what we are going to buy in terms of our budget, what we can afford in terms of our budget. But then we can refine our choice by looking back at the questions that I asked. Now, if, for example, the answer to the question about accuracy was that the guy did require a super accurate timepiece, perhaps he's, like, I don't know, one of these guys that runs a TV station or something, and definitely needs to know, when to rock up and let the nation know when the news is going to start or something like that. There are actually very few jobs that require that kind of accuracy, which is probably why Rolex sells so many watches. They're not as accurate as the Quartz watches. But if he does require that kind of accuracy, really, the only option is to go for the Invicta Quartz, which is the cheapest watch in the whole lineup. So that was the reason for that question. We also asked the question, is he a watch geek? Well, here's the thing about watch geeks. If your man is a watch geek, then you probably shouldn't buy him any of the watches that you can see in front of you, with the possible exception of this one. Okay. The problem with a watch geek is that he will have fine-tuned his taste to the extent that the likelihood that you are going to buy something that he will be pleased to wear on his wrist is frankly remote. Okay, because he will have developed all sorts of very particular ideas about what he likes and doesn't like. So if he's a watch geek, probably the only thing you can safely get him is something like this, like a nice pocket watch, or even I am in the process of putting pocket watches like this into nice silver cases. But I mean, if you look at this thing here, it was like the one that I showed you at the start. There is not a watch geek on the planet that would not be pleased to receive a gift as pretty as that. So if the guy's a watch geek, do not buy him a Submariner. He'll already know all about Submariners, and he would be probably wanting something like, a GMT Master or something, which is a type of Submariner, but it isn't one of these. And he'd be disappointed that he didn't get that. So, be very, very careful if he's a watch geek. The wrist size, if he has a small wrist, you should go for a watch that has a case diameter from here to here, not including the crown. So it's from here to here, of about 39 millimeters. Now, most of these watches, with the possible exception of the Invicta and the Tudor, come in a range of diameters. Okay, so as I say, with the small wrist, you should go for something like a 39 millimeter dial. If his wrist is of medium size, you're going to be able to get away with a 41 millimeter dial. And if he has a very, very large wrist, you can go up to a 42 millimeter dial and beyond. But there's only a rough, guideline there. It's just something that you can fine tune your selection. And you'll find that not all of these watches are available in all of those sizes anyway. So you're a little bit constrained. Now, the last thing that I asked you to think about was whether or not the watch is going to be worn in bright sunshine. And the reason for that is because it might affect your choice of dial color. So I have got on here my lovely Seiko week data, which, as you can see, if you tilt it in bright light, that if you do that a lot, that's going to become irritating. Whereas you can probably achieve the same thing, but it is a bit different, right? Okay. In bright conditions, a dark dial works much better than a light one. So again, just a way of refining the watch. Once you have chosen your the watch you're going to buy with the amount of money that you've got available for this. Okay, so there we are. We've been through it. It took a while, but that is how to buy a watch for a man on any budget. Regardless of how much money, there is a good watch that you can buy. Now, I promised at the start of this video that I would give you a little bonus. Now, it's always nice to follow up a present that you've given somebody, especially if it's hit the mark and they really, really like it, with another present later on. You know, perhaps you give him the watch for Christmas and then his birthday's in March or something like that, and you want a follow-up present. Now, I mentioned with these automatic watches that they have got this little rotor on. You'll see it moving around there. Okay, that when it is on your wrist, it winds the watch. Well, you can buy a watch winder. And a watch winder will mean that your man, when you've given him, you know, perhaps a Steinhardt Ocean 1, and he takes it off his wrist, he puts it in the watch winder, and the watch winder will keep it wound up. And I'm going to show you one of these watch winders now. So there it is. And as follow-up presents go, I hope you'll agree that this one is actually pretty cool. The idea, of course, is that you pop the watch in the winder and the winder moves the watch around. You know, this, you can set programs on this thing. It can go permanently or it can stop and start, and it will reverse direction and stuff like that. But essentially it keeps the watch wound so that when the guy who you have given it to goes to retrieve his watch, he hasn't got to set the date or the time or anything like that. He just grabs it and goes, essentially. So it's a really, really good follow-up present. And let's take a closer look at this. Okay, they come in all sorts of different shapes and sizes. You can get one which has just a single watch. You can have one with 4, 8 watches. There's all sorts of different types that you can get, and the least expensive ones are not that much money. So and of course you can go up to spending a fortune on them. You can get ones which are essentially also safes, and they cost thousands of pounds. But most people buy a little gift like this to follow up on the watch that you bought as a result of watching this video. Anyway, there we are. Let's just focus in on these two watches. We've got the Submariner there, and the other watch with it actually is a 1960s King Seiko, which I have recently serviced and is in there before it goes back to its proud owner. And so I'll leave you there. If you like my videos, please subscribe. Lots more videos coming your way. And if you like this video, just give it a thumbs up. But for the moment, that's all from the Watch Bench here in Pembrokeshire.